Hi, everybody. Dave Walker again here. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the B to SMB Institute and bringing you another session for our Small Biz Aid event. And very excited to welcome long-term supporters of the Institute, Ruby receptionist, and someone who I've never interviewed before, Laura Compton, who is the VP of Brand Marketing for Ruby. Welcome, Laura.
Hi, David. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's starting to get a little cold here in Chicago. I don't know how
Yeah.
it is out there in Portland, but winter's coming, I think.
Yes, yes, it is. It is for sure. I'm actually in Chicago as well. So my team
Oh,
is
that's
out in
right.
Portland, but I'm in Chicago with you. So I am bundling up inside already.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my woolies on, and I'm just I've got to go watch my boys do a soccer scrimmage this afternoon, so I'm definitely be bundled up for that.
That's
Anyway,
fantastic.
well, listen, thanks for doing this so much. And let's just start out by giving a little history for those who don't know of Ruby Receptionist. Tell us about Ruby.
For sure, for sure. So Ruby was founded in 2003 by our amazing founder, Jill Nelson, and she was actually a receptionist herself. And she saw how important the first impression was for small businesses. And she was inspired by the impact of a welcoming, warm voice and how that could really grow a business. So she pulled together her savings and got an SBA loan to start her own business. And 17 years later, Ruby is full speed ahead. We've continued to emphasize that human connection in everything we do with our chat and our receptionist services. Our SMBs know that their customers are in good hands, and we really help to deliver a great customer experience for our SMBs so that their customers reward them with loyalty, retention, and customer lifetime value.
That's a great synopsis. Give us a little history of you.
Yeah. So funny enough, I actually started my career as a receptionist and an office manager for my dad's solopreneur business when I was 12 years old. So I've come full
Picked up a
circle.
lot of good habits at 12. That's
Yeah,
great.
exactly. But since then, I've worked in B2C and B2B companies in a variety of industries, including retail, telecom, and MarTech in both San Francisco and Chicago markets. Um, Throughout my career, I've been focused on understanding what makes the consumer tick. I've always been motivated by understanding how I can solve their challenges with my products and services. And outside of work, I have two kids that are learning to love e-learning. I'm an environmental activist and I am a huge SMB advocate.
That's cool. So let me ask you a question as a marketer. Do you think, because you've been doing this a while, with your B2C background,
Mhm.
and I have some of that as well, B2C versus B2B, are small businesses more like the C or are they more like the B when it comes to how they respond?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So I think we actually have to do a nice blend of both in our marketing.
Hmm.
We have to really think about the business needs in terms of the B2B mindset, but then we need to treat our customers as though they're a consumer, because that will really help them to understand and gain interest in our products more easily
Hmm.
if we talk to them as though we are a B2C type business as well. So we're employing both tactics, to be quite honest. And I think that our SMBs are, in a lot of cases, are slightly behind the trends of B2B marketing organizations. And so we're helping them to be on that bleeding edge of what's next by treating them the way that B2Bs treat their target customers.
Well, that's cool. That's a good answer too. I do think it's a blend of both, and if you don't recognize that, I think you miss a lot. So I like to start these interviews, particularly for Small Biz Aid, with a pretty consistent question. That is, where were you when? Can you remember the day when it's probably back in February, March, where you were kind of like, things are starting to get really pretty interesting right now. Do you
Yeah.
remember when you started to believe that COVID was really here to stay and was going to have a big impact?
Yeah, no, for sure. So Interestingly enough, March 2nd was actually my first day at Ruby. So I spent my first,
Oh, great.
yeah, exactly. So I spent my first 4 days in Oregon, March 2nd through the 6th in Oregon, meeting our team. And by March 13th, I was basically told I wasn't going back to Oregon anytime in the near future.
Wow.
So it was a really interesting moment for me that I would only be able to know my team in real life for 4 total days. And now who knows how long it's already been, 6 months plus since that point in time, and I haven't gotten to see them in real life. But our leadership team actually started feeling the impact of COVID on February 28th. Being out in Oregon, we were actually quite near the initial epicenter of
Mhm.
COVID, which was in Seattle, Washington,
Yep.
in that time period. And COVID actually made its mark by entering into one of the schools of one of our executive leadership team members. And so from that day forth, our executive leadership took charge. They were methodical, they were strategic, they were prescriptive, and they moved all 600 of our employees from 3 different offices in 2 different states to a work from home environment in 11 days. It was amazing to watch, to witness, to be a part of. Every single Ruby was a part of this effort. We had, our CFO was driving around in trucks, in his minivans to drop off laptops and desktops to employees so that the IT teams could just focus on setting up computers. We had our employee experiences teams making sure that everybody had the tools and resources that they needed in their homes, internet connections and things like that, to make sure that we could um, continue on our service and make sure that our customers and our employees were going to be taken care of regardless of what happened with regards to COVID. It was really amazing to watch. And honestly, for me being in Chicago at that point, it was kind of an interesting dynamic because all of my colleagues were about a week and a half ahead of where we were at with regards to COVID in Illinois.
Yeah.
And so I was able to really not sit back by any means at all, but like see what was happening there and process it and apply it to what we needed to do on the marketing side of things to control our messaging, to make sure that we had the content and the campaigns in place to service our customers and work with our marketing and sales teams to create our strategy moving forward. So it was definitely an interesting day, an interesting week, an interesting time for Ruby. And it was honestly a beautiful thing to see how we all came together to make it sure that we were safe.
That's a remarkable story. I mean, I remember hearing from your CEO, Kate, that part of the task was running around actually buying those laptops so that they
Yes,
could put them in the hands of the receptionist.
yes.
So, you guys are in the business of talking on behalf of your small businesses, but I imagine that in those early days, there's a lot of conversations from those small businesses that are reaching out to you to say, okay, I'm not quite sure what to do. What were some of those early conversations with Ruby's small business customers like?
So we're actually getting 2 different types of questions coming in from our customers and our prospects. Our customers were really focused on understanding what they needed to do in order to ensure that their business was going to be able to survive this. And so in some cases, our customer happiness team is amazing. They were able to talk to our customers about what their needs might be and potentially downgrade their plans, potentially upgrade some of their plans, and in some cases pause their plans outright in order to make sure that they had what they needed in order to survive. Our Ruby has never been about providing a service that our customers do not need. We want to make sure that we are always a partner to these SMBs. We want to make sure that we're setting them up for success. And the only way to do that is to provide a service that they actually need.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to make sure that their plans were in line with where their business was at. In some cases, because of COVID, because of the lockdown, people were completely reliant on their phones in
Right.
order to serve their customers. They no longer had those brick and mortar locations to have that conversation, to have that connection with those individuals. And so in those areas, for those types of businesses, we actually saw accelerated growth. In
Right.
some cases, dentists and things like that, those offices were shut down almost completely. And
Mm-hmm.
so in we didn't want to put those businesses into a situation where they had to continue to pay in order to maintain their service. So we paused their accounts and told them, the second your business comes back online, we are there for you. We've got all of your information saved
Mm-hmm.
here. We're ready to go, so that as that demand picked up, we could be there and help them and support their business. On the flip side, the immediate thing that happened with our inbound sales is we saw a massive surge,
Mm-hmm.
a massive surge as people were panic buying for receptionist and chat services for their SMBs. That surge actually hit a plateau and then quickly dropped off after about a week of the lockdown. And so we had to regroup and really think about what we needed to do as a business to continue on
Mm-hmm.
the trajectory that we needed to be in.
Mm-hmm.
But we had already kind of started to lay that foundation for that plan in the business as usual campaign, which made it so that we were able to continue on and drive that demand very easily.
So you mentioned it, and obviously, you know, for you guys, it's not business as usual, nor is it business as usual for any of your customers. And you start to formulate this idea around what eventually you guys called your business unusual program. Give me some of the background needs that you felt that you were filling as you really started to kind of formulate that the idea of that program and its execution.
Yeah. So our our initial thoughts were, how do we support our SMBs? What is the information that they're going to need in
Mm-hmm.
order to run their businesses effectively? What are the tools that they're going to need at their ready in order to cope with what's about to hit all of us?
Mm-hmm.
And we knew that we weren't the experts in what those needs were going to be, but
Mm-hmm.
we knew that we had access to those experts. And so we started brainstorming ideas on what those needs might be, how to market to the local market, how to market to the global market, how to handle social media campaigns, how to drive demand gen without a brick and mortar location, how to navigate the PPP loans, and how to handle uh, how to handle the mental state and mindset that you needed to be in order to cope with all of this change.
Wow.
Once we kind of pulled together a list of these ideas that we had, it was a pretty extensive list. We started working with not only our team members, our executive leadership teams, but our partners in identifying subject matter experts that we could bring in that would be willing to talk, that would be willing to share their expertise with our customers and prospects, and provide us with an hour of their time, and in return provide our SMBs with the tools that they needed. So we've been able to develop everything from webinars to customer service audit checklists to blog posts and toolkits that will help you when developing your SEO strategy. It's been really awesome to see how not only our team, but our team of SMEs has pulled together in order to support this SMB community.
That's really cool. And so what's the reception been? Have the small businesses been able, have they had the wherewithal to kind of, the mental bandwidth to kind of take up all of this advice and information?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. This wasn't ever built to be a uh, a massive demand gen asset for us. When I actually pitched this project to our CMO, uh, our campaign manager, Jill McKenna, actually had all of these ideas that she brought to the table. And what we discussed is that this was going to be a long-term strategy for us, that this was us helping to reestablish Ruby as this thought leader, as this subject matter expert for small businesses to deliver the services, the subject matters that they needed in order to thrive and survive. And so we really took it as this is something we want to build out to drive our SEO and to drive traffic to our website. From, I believe it was April to June, we saw a 26% increase in our website traffic through organic, which is the highest rates of traffic that we've seen in over 3 years to our site.
Wow.
It's really awesome. And then we saw another big bump in July, as well as another record-breaking organic traffic site level in August. So that's the benefit of leveraging this type of content in a way that drives that ongoing traffic to your site.
Right.
And ultimately will demonstrate us as a partner to our SMBs. And therefore, when they're ready to convert, they'll convert.
So, in summary, good things came to you when you did good things. And
Yeah.
gee, that's a good life lesson, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. I think some of the things that we also did is, we wanted to make sure that I think that a lot of companies feel that they always need to be selling, always be selling.
Right.
And it's one of these things where we're like, no, let's take a step back. That's not who Ruby is. Ruby wouldn't be selling during this time period. We're selling, don't get me wrong, but we're selling in a way that's when our customers are ready. We're there for them, and we made a cognizant choice to be their partner in this effort, and they're depending on us and we're depending on them through this, and it's pretty awesome. So we've pulled back the number of CTAs on our site. We've pulled back the amount of gated content on our site. We're opening up that content to make sure that our customers and prospects have what they need when they need it, and then they know that we're here when they need them.
So I can imagine that kind of sitting around the table and come brainstorming those early ideas of things that small business would need. Have you been evolving it as time has gone on? And if so, have you started to formulate new topics that really are of interest as small businesses start to kind of cross our fingers, enter a phase of recovery?
Yes, for sure. So it's no longer business unusual when you're 6 months in, right?
Right.
And a lot of businesses plan on being in this state for approximately another year, if not longer. So, we're starting to set into this is business, and this is how we need to behave, and this is how we need to act. So a lot of the content that we had at the initial onset was how do you go virtual? How do you talk to your employees and improve internal communications conversations? How do you keep culture alive when working from a remote setting? Those are some of those initial conversations that we've had. A lot of our SMBs aren't in the recovery stage just yet. They're still in the survive mode.
Right.
And so we're now starting to talk with them about how do you sustain this level of ambiguity for this long period of time. How do you, what are the tools and resources that you need to start planning ahead for your future growth? What are the tools and resources that you need for business continuity planning and things like that? We're trying to make sure that we have those tools and those resources ready to go for our customers. It's also one of those things where now that you're out of that shock and awe state,
Right.
you're understanding that your understanding of some of the ways that local marketing works, that geo-targeting works, you're broadening those capabilities as you're trying to move to a more digital first world. And so we're starting to create, to help our businesses create stronger web presence through SEO, helping them to understand the basics of managing remote teams. And then they're also going to be focusing in again on that social media side of things and what can we do to support ongoing crises on the social media side of things.
So if you had to summarize kind of the things you've learned, the top 3 things that you've learned over the last 6 months of doing this program, and really kind of capture them in such a way that they're instructive to your peers, to the many of your peers who are watching this, who have had fits and starts of programs that they've tried to launch, pulled back on, advanced, whatever. What are some of the big lessons that you've learned that you would kind of share with our network, our audience?
Yeah, so I think that you need to watch the trends. You need to watch your data. As you're seeing shifts in where people are coming into your site, as you're seeing shifts in what types of content is being downloaded or what industries people are coming to you from, you've got to be monitoring that information because those small minutia of changes can be game changers for your organization. If you miss some of those early indicators, it could set you back a couple of days, a couple of weeks, depending on what your sales cycle looks like. And so I think having a really close look at your data and having the visibility into where your leads are coming from and what leads are converting is key. I think the next part is sticking to your foundational core. Your business, you know what your business's purpose is. You know what your challenge is that you're solving for your customers. Clearly articulate that challenge to your customers so that they can understand who you are and where you fit into solving their needs. If you go too far outside of that core, of that foundational element that you are, it's going to be hard to articulate that story to your customers. So I think really making sure that you're sticking to your foundational core is key. And I think the other part of this is be human. I can't stress enough how easy it is to be human, to be kind, to be empathetic, to be considerate, to be mindful of what our customers we're all customers. What are the challenges that we're all facing? Be mindful of that. Be mindful of the pressures that everybody's on today, in this world. And be mindful that, they might not have seen every single one of the emails or heard every one of the phone calls that you're trying to connect with them on. You need to be repetitive. You need to be there for them when they need you. And you need to lead in a human forward approach. I think that if you stick to those 3 things, then you'll be in a far better place than if you, pretend like nothing's going wrong in the world right now.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't recommend the last. No pretending that it's all hunky dory. But those are really three terrific articulations of what you guys really have ultimately rendered. And I have to believe that it is going to have long-term positive impact on your brand, on your business, on your customer relationship. And that's a very common theme of the most successful programs that, frankly, we've profiled here for small business. I have to admit, it's very consistent. Everybody has, I think, a little nuanced take on really listening to the customer. In your case, really looking at the data. Stay in your lane. Don't be the bank that tries to give advice on how to create an SEO campaign. You're a bank. You're not a marketer.
Yeah.
Don't get out of your lane. Really stay where you really need to stay.
Yes.
And I think that last one, be humane, be human and humane. I think probably nobody appreciates that more than small businesses, right? Because the demands placed on them from their very human customers, consumers, who expect them to be human and humane back to them is extreme. And they really need it. The way they feel they need to treat their customers is the way they want to be treated. So hats off to you guys for really recognizing that.
You know, I think that you hit on something really important, David, and that's that I think one of the earliest lessons for me in all of this has been just how much we are dependent on each other in order to get do our jobs. And my team, like I said, I've been a part of Ruby about 6.5 months at this point. I have the most amazing team. I am so blessed that I get to work with these men and women every day. And we've gone through a lot together. There is nothing that this team can't handle. And I think that, I think a lot of that trust, a lot of that, empathy that we all have for each other is because of the leadership that we have in Kate Winkler, our CEO, and in Rebecca Grimes, our CMO. They are the most empathetic, authentic, strategic, straightforward women I know, and the rest of our C-suite is very similar, but they lead in such a human-forward approach that it makes it okay for us to not be okay. And it makes it okay for our teams to have conversations that you wouldn't have previously had 6 months ago. But we're okay with having those conversations, and we're growing together as a result of those conversations, and we're servicing our SMBs better because we're having those conversations. And I think that that's one of the other important parts in all of this is, man, oh man, you gotta lean in on your team so much and believe in them and empower them and trust them, and they're gonna do the same for you.
What a great message. It's okay to not be okay, because that's certainly, I think, what we're all living right now. And what a great place to close, because it's been wonderfully instructive and informative, but also inspirational, which they say in TED Talks, those are the 3 I's that you want to hit. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you've offered our audience. And, I think that there's plenty of folks out there who consider themselves subject matter experts. And I certainly invite them to reach out to you if they have information about, I'm sure, things that you would love to be talking about, like cybersecurity or credit checks. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you guys, I'm sure, are being asked by your small business customers now that you've really got this program so robust in what it's doing on behalf of the SMBs. So
most definitely, we'll take all the SMEs we can get.
All right, this sounds great. Thanks so much, Laura. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time, David. I appreciate it as well.
All right, take care.
Take care.